Okay. You're good. Luna, if I get any more fur in my mouth, I don't know what I'm going to do. Oh, sorry, I'm live. Whoa. Anyways, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is for you, wherever you are on the static planet. Michael John here of Michael John's Paranormal Ghost Stories. I'm also a co-ghost host to this lovely man next to me. I've known since 5th grade, sleepovers, fights, everything. We've done it all. And look at what we're doing now. Co-ghost host next to me is, of course, Dale Quigley of High Spirits. Together, we are the voice of the paranormal, the voice for the paranormal. Windsor, Ontario, proud. Windsor, Ontario's own, the Paranormal Voice. And, of course, what a great show we have tonight. I'm so glad to be here, bro. We are on YouTube Live right now. The replay will be on. I had to think for a second there, hence the pause. KGRA Digital. That will be the replay every Saturday night, 1 a.m. Hashtag blessed, thankful, grateful, and so humble to be doing all this and so much more in the paranormal realms, if you will. We had a heck of a guest this past Wednesday. Cody, the man who's had encounters with a female dog woman, dog man, however it resonates, you get my point, since the age of 10. And it's still going strong. It happens daily for this guy. And if you haven't heard that story yet, please check it out on the YouTube channel. Please check it out on KGRA Digital, whatever works better for you. Take it on the go with KGRA, of course. Tonight, no exception. We are going on the cryptid train, full steam ahead, Dale. Oh my God. Again.
Yeah, it's been like cryptid month for us. First we had the Sasquatchers on, and then we had Cody on. Yep. And now we're getting down to another guy that we just met like this year at the UFO Contact Convention. Yes. Like I said, I mean, it is. I mean,
he knows a thing or two for sure, to say the least. I'm so excited.
This is ever since we met this guy. Like I said, once you booked him, I was like, yes. I mean, truly right in there. And of course, brother to us just across the water from us over there in Michigan, which is a beautiful thing.
Yes, and he was hard to trap, no pun. We finally landed the plane to get him, and we got him. Yes. This guy, he's dealt with DEA, he's dealt with FBI, DNR, on and on. And he's worn many hats in his own life, but I mean, but also this guy's all over the place. He's not afraid to talk paranormal. He's not afraid to not only talk about Bigfoot, he'll talk about Dogman. He'll talk about synchronicities. This guy, we're going to be all over the place, so keep up with us. The focus is going to be on Bigfoot. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get right to it. Very proud to have on, very excited to have on from BigFootsofMichigan.com. Check out the website, Bigfoots of America as well. The one and only Bryan Sawyer.
Hello, man. Thanks for having me on, man. Thanks for working with my schedule and back and forth, man. I'm so happy to be here.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an absolute treat for us that we can finally capture you and hone you in and get you to a spot where we can actually sit down and pick your brain some more. I know we started talking up at the UFO Contact Convention this year.
Yep.
And like I said, right from the moment we got out of there, it was like, wow. I think that was most of the conversation on the way home, because like I said, it's truly amazing the amount of folks that we are meeting right now that are all in connections with the cryptid world.
For sure.
I mean, it is. I think the cryptid is now more talked about than the paranormal ghost side of things right now, because it's just everywhere you turn. Every time you turn on YouTube or another podcast, everybody's got to talk about cryptids. May it be Bigfoot, Dogman, whatever other cryptids that might be in this Mothman, like I said, there isn't more Mothman sightings coming up lately too. And I was like, that's my favorite thing is the Mothman.
Well, I got a
So,
story for you. So let's come back to that. I got a story for you, and you're going to trip out when I tell you.
oh, sweet,
Mothman.
sweet.
I got to write down or I'll forget in 2 seconds. So. Seriously. Bryan, you've done a lot of things. I mean, you're not unlike Dale and myself. I mean, you zig and zag. You do a lot of things. You live your life. And I love that about you. And that's what you have, that energy too. I mean, you're going to, you know what, let's get our feet wet in this. I want to do it. You know what I mean? I love it. It's all about passion. You clearly have passion. You've been an actor. I mean, you're going back. You were part of, we were talking about backstage. You were part of Second City of Michigan. And that's before the Bigfoot and everything else. You got in all that. So can we start there? Let's start at your humble beginnings, if you will.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. I kind of fell into it. I was singing in the choir at my church. You know how I'm early 20s, starting to feel for what I want to do. The pastor was like, "Hey, you're not afraid to get up on stage." And they're like, we're going to start a drama group. You want to start the drama group? And so, I started doing that. And before I knew it, I noticed that people were really reacting to me, the audiences and everything. So I said, well, I need to get some formal training with this. I headed down to Second City. Hopefully one of my mentors, Michael Lomas, who's a teacher from Second City, part of Motor City Improv. Hopefully he's watching. He's into Bigfoot and all that kind of stuff. I met him, got some great tutelage there, met a former SNL writer named Rich Guattari. So I get in there and I do one of my first auditions for main stage, and I come off and, I'm learning the ropes, and out of the corner of my eye, somebody comes beelining over and grabs my arm. And I spin around and this guy's like, "Hey, I'm going to tell you right now, you have got so much raw talent. You got to promise me right now that you'll learn how things are done here at Second City and that you'll never quit acting because you're phenomenal." I'm like, well, thank you. I don't know who this guy is. Well, guess who this guy ended up being? His name is Keegan Michael Key from Key and Peele, from so many movies now. So I grabbed hold of that. Oh, yeah. I grabbed hold of that. And, I took a little time off to be a single father, raising my 2 boys. And then I got back down there. I got there with Rich Guattari, got under his tutelage. I met the Hollywood casting director from Michigan, Janet Pound, got under her tutelage and just started learning about, film production and how to be on camera. And then that led to theater and over at the Riverbank Theater here. Learning from Guy Sandville from Purple Rose, friends with Jeff Daniel, that whole crew, and just really got studied up. Yeah. And then that led into also some producing for independent films when they came to town. When Hollywood come to town, I'm usually on set doing something. I've met people like Gal Gadot, Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill. I got to hang out with John Hamm and David Harbour from Stranger Things for a week in our own rented out house, and just sitting there and going back and forth, and just learning from Steven Soderbergh. So just learning how to get that excellence, try to work with I guess the biggest thing is self-control. Whenever you're doing film or TV and even live stage, it's all about self-control and hitting those bullet points, So and then I'm in love with it. The thing is comedy is what captured my attention, and making people laugh and caring about your fellow man. And then when you're on stage and you're part of an ensemble like at Second City Detroit, you have got to listen to the other people on stage before you start talking. You don't want to walk all over other people when they're talking. So I just fell in love with it. And then a couple of years ago, a good friend of mine, Johnny Flynn, he had an idea about filming a paranormal show, and we, called Pizza Monster, and it's going to be kind of directed towards kids. So we started working with different things, and one of the episodes is going to be Bigfoot. So we get in there and we start filming, and I met Jim Sherman from the BFRO, and then I met this guy named Aaron Young, a Bigfoot eyewitness from Gladwin, Michigan. He's my age, and he had a sighting when he was just right around, I think, a junior, senior year in high school. And he's, they're getting ready to party down. They're having a good time, getting ready to graduate, him and his buddies, sitting around a campfire. And then all of a sudden, he's looking at his buddy across the fire pit, and his buddy's kind of freaking out and just looking right over my friend's shoulder. And he's like, "Hey, man, what's going on?" And the guy's like, "Well, who's that big motorcycle looking dude over there?" Yeah. And they turn around.
That's
and
crazy.
this Bigfoot is squatted down, mind you, and he's still as tall as all these kids. And Aaron, he's a solid 6 foot. And so this Sasquatch is squatted down, and the Sasquatch kind of waits until all the attention's on him, because I think now, as I learn more about Sasquatch, they are well planned in what they're doing and how they interact with humans. And this particular Sasquatch wanted them out of his area for whatever reason, and he stood up and gave just a hellish scream. And my buddy Aaron Young and all his buddies, they went and they jumped in the car, the station wagon, and sped off, and then that thing was watching them as they sped off. But what captivated, you hear Bigfoot eyewitnesses all the time, and you go, okay, was this real? Was it not real? I had no doubt in my mind when Aaron Young gave his eyewitness encounter that if he was lying or not. I knew he was telling the truth. I knew what he said was true. And then that, at the same time, the Cass River sighting here in Michigan had just happened. And so it just catapulted me into, you know what? I think I want to follow up on this. And I started some investigating on my own, getting to know people. And I said, bam, we're going to go ahead and start filming this TV pilot series. I've got some connections in LA and New York, and we are working on this formula right now. And we just finished filming season 2. And
congratulations.
Thank you. And a lot of submissions are heading out. Platforms like Netflix and Discovery Channel and HBO. So hopefully we get picked up somewhere. If not, I've already determined I'm still going to do the YouTube channel. I'm still going to continue on with this thing. So yeah.
So now you said
it happened.
Something very interesting. I'm just going back to what you were talking about, all that. You said Bigfoot are well planned on how they interact with humans. That's an interesting statement, because I've never really heard that. What do you mean?
Well, here's what I mean. You're basically not going to have any kind of interaction unless they allow it. Okay? I'm not saying there's maybe the Patty film maybe caught one off guard. I'm right here on this Burris. Not that I'm advertising, but I love this thing. This is my thermal. And I believe I've got a Sasquatch on here. And the only way I got it is caught these beings. I like to refer to them as beings.
Yes.
Caught it off guard. It didn't expect me to be in an area where there's no humans. I was there at the right time, at the right place. And so I can't wait to see this. But unless you catch them off guard for whatever reason, you're not going to see one. Because I'm going to tell you right now, Michael, these things can see you. They can hear you, and they can smell you before you're even in the area. And we want to jump onto this rule. I just finished reading this book for the first time, The Creature by Jan Clement. And there is, to kind of codify this, there's a sentence in there where the guy talks about the Bigfoot froze. It was looking off in the distance, and it kind of froze. And then a couple minutes later, an automobile would come or an airplane would fly over. So they can hear us, they can see us, they can smell us before we're even in the area. So unless they're going to let you see them, like the Black River Bigfoots is what I call them. Matthew Sexton, a good friend of mine, and Jim Ingram, 2 Bigfoot eyewitnesses, told me about these individuals. And now I tree knock with them. I let them know I'm coming. I say, "Oh, CO, Cherokee Indian, hello, how are you? Peace." And I come and I gift them. And usually when I get there are footprints or something called a Y stick, and a Y stick means friendship. Angie Elizabeth, she's in our, hold on, I'm checking on I got a ton of notes. She is my eyewitness from season 2, episode 4. You want to see her on our Bigfoots of Michigan channel. her episode where she has a Bigfoot family that lives on her property. She first told
Oh
me
wow.
about the Y sticks and how they represent friendship and kindred spirits. And, it means you're good to go. It means you're okay. And so I've got 2 Y sticks right behind me that where I'll go out there, I'll leave apples, I'll leave a pineapple or carrots. And I have a Y stick where I put the apple and then I'll get a Y stick in return. And actually, that original Y stick was planted there by Sasquatch the first time, the night I first heard one speak. So,
Can you
yeah.
show me the Y stick, and I'll explain in a minute. Maybe it's not even related, but you triggered something that I've been seeing in the last few days out and about. Is a Y stick literally a stick that's in the shape of a Y? Yes or no?
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Shut
it just
up.
looks like a Y. Want me to grab this one? See if I can get it.
Oh my
All
God.
right.
Stop.
Well, I've got 2 of them back here. This one's kind of large
Yeah.
behind me. Oh, let me get my microphone out of the way here.
Yes.
So this is the Y stick. This is one of them.
Yes.
Now,
Yeah.
the original Y stick that I had left there where I gift, I put the apple right in. It's about 3 times the size of this. I walked up to it. The apple was gone this time, and this was leaning against it. And there were Y sticks found in other. This is like, 4th or 5th time now. Oh my gosh, I've got more stories about Y sticks. Just recently, one pulled out of a river for me. Just prior to me coming down the path with my film crew.
Okay.
Right.
So this craziest thing, Brian, why I'm getting excited about it. So, I'm going to confess here. So I've been doing my best to stay on the carnivore diet, but then I sway off the beaten path and I go to Burger King. So I've been going to the same Burger King the last couple times this week, and there is a giant, it's like a branch. I mean, it's probably about this, like that, but it's in the shape of a Y and it's cut off. If it's still there, I'm grabbing it and I'm bringing it in here and I'll take pictures.
Awesome.
What the hell?
It could be the beginning of communication with these beings.
Right.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, for you, a back and forth. Because here's my personal belief. I've been so successful because of my eyewitnesses, number one, but also because they've accepted me. And I believe the reason they've accepted me, the Sasquatch have. And let's deal with that for a minute. I've got my bomb hat on, my Bigfoots of Michigan. One of the first times they spoke to me is they gave me their name, this one individual's name. And he said, hey, which was Scout. He said, my name is Scout, because I'd asked, what's your name? So his mind spoke to me. I'm taking the garbage out to behind my garage, and I hear it. I'm audible in my head, whatever it is. And I spin around because I thought somebody was there.
Right.
And what I hear is 2 things. I hear Scout and forest people. So right then I knew my name is Scout. To you, I'm going to give you a name that you can refer to me as, and that is Scout. Yep. And he said forest people. Relating to that, we'd rather be referred to as forest people than Bigfoots.
Wow.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So isn't that crazy? So I believe they've accepted me going back to that point because I want to share their story. I want to know, where they come from, what they're all about, what happened to their relationship with mankind. There was kind of a falling out, way back when, maybe frontier days with the Native Americans or whatever happened. So I'd like to find that story. And that's my goal, is to have communication back and forth. So I'm able to kind of relay that as they become more well known. Because like I said before, as we talked before we came on, if you're still asking the question, does Bigfoot exist? You're out of touch. You're behind. You're behind. No, not only do they exist, there's multiple different species. We still don't know exactly what they are, but in my opinion, they're just gigantopithecus. They're interdimensional beings at some level, and there may be different levels for different clans. Maybe one is more biological, like this in the story with Jan Clement. But maybe there's others who are able to portal. Matthew Sexton one of my eyewitnesses believed he walked into a portal. I have
Wow.
evidence not far from me with the new Bigfoot family that I've got on the thermal and getting more familiar with, that they portal in and portal out. So yeah,
Wow.
I'm here to talk, guys. If you haven't noticed, I got a ton of information.
I love it. So, Brian, if you can you tell us about your very first Sasquatch Bigfoot encounter, and like what was the what was going through your mind, like, when, because I mean, when you first, probably the very first encounter, just like us in the paranormal field, like first time you actually have encounter
Mhm.
with a ghost or an apparition,
Oh boy.
your mind kind of just like tries to think of everything why this can't be real what's standing in front of you. So if you can, like, talk about your very first experience and what was going through your mind at that time.
All right. Well, let's start from the beginning and let's jump, jump to a point that's very important. Now, when I say this, it's going to be disappointing, but I fully believe the result will be different. I have not physically seen a Sasquatch yet, except through that thermal camera. Okay.
Okay.
But I have had almost every other type of communication and encounters. And from my understanding, they kind of teach you and let you in, and they take you to another level, and they take you to another level, and they take you to another level. So I'm being patient. I'm accepting what they're giving, continuing on the gifting. But if we get down to the raw facts, so what's been going on is, as this show is growing, I'm getting invites from across the nation to get out of Michigan, and that's why I started the Bigfoots of America podcast. I'm not in it because I respect all the other shows. I'm not going to be able to do 1,000 episodes like Sasquatch Chronicles or anything like that. I'm going to do them as they come. And so we get invited around the nation, almost every state now. 2025 we're going to go to North Carolina and we're going to go to Alabama. But my first encounter, we're in Kentucky, not summer 2023 July. I'm looking at it right now. That's on our YouTube channel called the Shawnee Sasquatch, and I get a call from this mountain man from Appalachia. We're
Ooh.
talking, we're talking deep in. If you look back on the wall here, I got the key when I got there. The mayor gave me the key to Hazard. So this is a little town called Slump, Kentucky. Yeah, super cool. Got it on the wall. So just outside of Hazard, Kentucky, there's a little town called Slump, Kentucky. I mean, right in the holler between two mountains. This old Shawnee Indian named Hank Kress gets a hold of me. And just like if you and I were talking about something at work or something going on in everyday life, he's like, yeah, I got 13 or 14 of them living on my property. I'm like,
Wow.
and this is when you go, oh, really? It's not a 5 second sighting, like, which is the norm. And so I respect all those too. But so all of a sudden I jump to this, like, what do you mean you got 13 or 14 living on your property? Well, yeah, come on over and you'll see. So we get down there to Kentucky and we're driving. I'm from Michigan, man. I'm driving, I got a cliff dropping off on this side, and my girlfriend's like, "Why are you driving so slow?" And I'm like, "Cause I'm nervous." I'm white knuckling the steering wheel. So he takes us up on this mountainside, and he's telling me, well, they got an alpha male, and he comes out every certain time of the day, and he suns himself by this cliff. And so we get up there, and I'm very skeptical at this point. I'm like, man, either this guy's, just old crazy man, or he's telling the truth. There's no in between with this.
Right.
And we get up there, and he gives out a holler, but he's speaking in Shawnee Indian. He's a tribal member from the Shawnee tribe of Kentucky.
Cool.
And there's no response. So I'm like, oh, okay, no, whatever. And then he says, well, my girlfriend's with us at the time, my girlfriend Laura, and he's like, well, have your girl give out a whoop or something. They like women. And so when you see in the episode, she gives a woo, we're not schooled at whooping yet. This is our first season. And she gives out a woo, And immediately there's a rock clap here and a grunt over here, or vice versa. I'll have to look at the episode, but rock clap and a grunt, like boom, boom. And I'm like, and so I'm like, all right, okay, wait a minute. Is there people down there setting us up or what?
Right.
So that's the first thing. So we gift a watermelon. He has a gifting spot where he gifts them, and he also has a gifting spot by his house. So he sees the young ones come and go all the time. So we do all that, and I've got nothing on camera yet. And he starts talking about, well, we can't stay too long because there's a female, and she's got a youngin', and she lives just up on the other side of the hill. And if she finds out we're here or gets a whiff of us, we might be in trouble because she just beat up two of our tribal members, like
Whoa.
pretty bad. Yeah, pretty bad.
Wow.
So we're like, okay. And I'm just mulling over the whoop and the rock clap. I'm like, man, that would be hard to fake because, it's a steep decline down that mountainside. And we're about halfway back to the truck, and I hear something. I know what a bobcat sounds like. I've done all my homework. I'm trying to learn all the new wood sounds, and I hear something so powerful but so scary. It shook me. And I don't get nervous easy. I mean, I had a big brother who used to beat me up all the time, so it's just a way of life. So, yeah, I hear something I've never heard before, and a commotion, and we've got like a shadow in the episode on camera that's on the side and it's peeking out behind a tree. And so we get to the truck and we're going down, and I'm shaking, right? And then so on the way down, Hank says, yeah, I told you, sorry about, and he's like apologizing. He's never pushing us in one direction. And so we're going down this 2-track, literally on the side of a mountain and an F-150, and we're looking straight down on one side. And we come to this little bit of clearing, and there's a slope over there. And he says, oh, yeah. And he says this off the cuff because he's rattling off so much stuff that he's been dealing with these Sasquatch over all these years. Everything's no big deal to him. And he says, but in my mind, I want some tangible evidence. Okay, now I've had 3 encounters, but I would like some tangible evidence. And off the cuff, because he's already talking about something new, he says, oh, yeah, that's where they come up and down and they come through here. That's their main pathway. But yeah, we got to go down, and I'll show you the gifting site down by my house. And I'm like, hold on a second. Let's stop the truck. I want to see the side of this mountain slope. And you'll see in the episode, I walk up, and just like this old guy said, this old Shawnee Indian, that whole slope of that side of that hill is covered in footprints. And in the episode, you see me measuring out 2 footprints that are 20 plus inches long, and they fit the description, the size. So rule of thumb is, an easy rule of thumb is, say you got 20-inch footprints, you're talking about a 10-foot Sasquatch, a 9-10 foot. It's half, whatever the footprint size is that Sasquatch is like, its height is half the length of that footprint. So just like this guy said, oh, you're about 9-10, maybe 11 feet. So that fits it. And then I measure the distance between the stride, and it's 6 feet. 6 feet stride going up a hill. And then I look around, and there's all these multiple size footprints all up and down that hill. So unless he spent a whole afternoon, and some people think he did,
Right.
spent a whole afternoon with but there's a mid-tarsal break there. And it's the straight line, it's a footprint, it's not staggered like us humans, it's in line, all the footprints are. So you'll see that in the episode as well. And then we get down there, and he shows me the spot where he gifts them, and I can see where the food remnants are. He says the mother Sasquatch will bring the young ones up and let them run down and get it. And so those were my first encounters. Like, okay, either this guy is a masterful stager in pulling off hoaxes, or he's telling the truth. So that was my first, okay, I believe this old guy could be telling the truth,
Right.
And so that was my first encounter.
Wow. So we got a question for you, Bryan. Jason, one of our good buddies, says, "Is any thoughts on Bigfoot being some sort of alien? Now, this has been a topic for quite a while.
Mhm.
We'd love to get your thoughts on that very as well. What is your thoughts between Bigfoot and the alien? Are they one and the same? Are they working together?
Okay, here's the interesting part. I always use this analogy. I didn't know this until recently. I'm in my 50s. I didn't know this till recently. I looked up on Google how many different types of insects there are, just insects.
Yes.
And I came up with somewhere between 900,000 and 1 million different types of insects. Okay, look it up for yourselves. All right. So then you hit the answer of all the different types of creatures we haven't discovered in the sea, all of that. Here's what I believe. I'm just going to say yes. Now, with that yes, there's a lot of in betweens. I believe there are different levels of Sasquatch. Some are more biological, some are beings, extraterrestrial beings. I've got a eyewitness in Grand Rapids, Michigan, on the west side of the state. Haven't been able to get out there, but his name is Scott Upper. I'm going to get out there and talk to him because he sees them coming and going. He sees the orbs all around. He
Yeah.
has the contact and he hears the language. So for me, how could I sit here and say it's not an ET? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
But to me, yeah, it very well could be.
Yeah.
What are interdimensional beings? They're extraterrestrial to us,
Right.
So
Yeah.
Bryan,
No,
sorry,
Go
no.
ahead.
I want to go off onto a different. So now, Bigfoot is generally known
Mhm.
for orange eye shine. Generally, as far as I know, and then
Well, okay. We'll
Dogman
elaborate
is
more
known
on that.
for Dogman is known for generally amber eye shine. Why the specific colors?
Okay, well, let's deal with something I know to deal with. In
Please.
my episode 3, with a guy named Aaron Spencer. He is a Chippewa Indian from the Chippewa Bear Clan out of Michigan. He has had Sasquatch encounters his whole life. He's got a lot of information. Ever since he was an infant, was his first encounter with the Sasquatch, all the way up to just recently. Okay, and in his episode, we believe we caught the orange colored Sasquatch eyes watching us. Okay, we had rocks thrown at us, one zoomed by my head. They have an amazing aim. But in that episode, you see the orange, what I believe is Sasquatch watching us. Now, from my understanding, orange is curious and maybe a little agitated. Red is not really happy that you're in their territory. Yellow, and I believe from my 2 eyewitnesses out of Escanaba, Michigan, Kim and John, former BFRO members, they had yellow eye shine, and it was self-illuminating. It looked like the ones they saw, it looked like flashlights coming out of their eyes, and they were of a yellow color.
My mind is
So
blown.
yeah,
Right.
Wow.
My mind is.
Yep, self-illuminating like flashlights. So now let's deal. What was the Dogman? The amber
Dogman
color?
is generally amber as well. That's why I brought it up.
See, here's the question: is a Dogman just a version of Sasquatch? We believe actually.
Love this.
Yeah, is it another type of Sasquatch, or is it a lineage of the werewolf? Is it a diluted version of the werewolf? Because
Right.
all of these mythology stories that we grew up with, we're now believing to have a whole lot of truth to them. The
Amen.
ancient yes, all the interbreds, half man, half horse, half goat, half man, the cyclopses, the minotaurs. All of that, we are starting to believe that these are real creatures. Now, you want me to blow your mind some more? The transition for me into Sasquatch and Bigfoot, forest people, who I like to call them, started with all my encounters with ghosts and cloaked beings. One even followed me from house to house. having conversations with them. So it was no big deal for me to kind of transport myself from my interactions with ghosts and seeing ghosts, having those encounters to Bigfoot. But the one that blew my mind was I saw a fairy, guys. A fairy. At the
Wow.
time I saw this fairy, I had no idea they existed. I'm not to sound corny, but I'm not 10-year-old little girl who likes fairies, and so I'm thinking about fairies all the time. I'm a guy who's going to work at Ford Motor Company, busting my butt, waking up at anywhere between 1 and 3 a.m. to make it to work on time.
Yeah.
And I'd moved into my father's house, which he passed away, and I'm laying in my bed and I'm renovating this whole house. Me and my brother and my sister, we kind of let it go over the years. We weren't sure what we were going to do with it. I went through a divorce and I'm like, you know what? I need the house, guys. I'll take it over. I'll take over the estate. This house was built in 1950. I'll get it all renovated, bring it back to life. So as I'm laying on my bed, not even getting tired, guys. Not even getting tired, so I wasn't even in that land between sleep and being awake, where you start seeing stuff. I wasn't even there, guys. I'm totally awake. But I've got my eyes shut, and I don't know if I have my hands over my chest like this. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, I got to paint the living room. I got to replace that floor. I got to support the full floor with jacks. We got to do this. We got to do that. And I hear a voice. I hear a voice. Still, I can't believe I'm saying this because this is the craziest encounter in my life. I hear a voice say in a woman's tone or a girl's tone, I've heard about you.
Oh,
Whoa.
I'm laying there and I say to myself, who the heck was that? Nobody's in this house. I'm the only person in this house.
right.
Nobody wants to be in this house. It's a, old decrepit thing I got to fix up. I open my eyes, and about the size of my hand, about a foot away, is this fairy hovering over my face.
Wow.
I'm going to get closer to the camera to keep some effect on this, but it's looking at me like this.
Whoa.
Like when you speak to a dog and they're like, huh?
Yeah.
It's looking at me intently and it's checking me out. I've
Amazing.
never believed in fairies. I don't even think I've ever, unless I was watching Peter Pan when I was a kid.
Yeah.
If you would have told me the day before that fairies were real, I've been like, what, you nuts?
Right.
And all of a sudden, I hear a voice. I've heard about you, number one. Number two, I open my eyes to this thing looking at me like
Wow.
this. It's so intent looking at me, it doesn't realize I'm looking now back at it.
Yep.
Right.
And out of my mouth, because I'm shocked, shocked, out of my mouth comes, I can see you, right? And this thing goes just like that and flies off. Now, here's the trip. We're talking about synchronicity earlier, Michael. This thing flies off. I watch it fly off across the room and into what I would call a junction box. It's a junction box to my TV where you plug the cable in, you plug the DVD player in, and then that transmits to the TV. You plug that into TV. It flies into this thing with a pop, and I actually see sparks. So some kind of electrical, fairy, interdimensional being brought itself into the physical world. Didn't realize I was going to see it back. And then let alone say, I can see you, right? And flies off. Well, that's how I reacted after it flew out. Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
so was that your only encounter with this fairy? No. Has it been back?
It has not been back, at least to where I can see it.
Oh, okay.
Now, I'll leave it at that. But I now believe in fairies, guys. So if I believe in fairies, everything's on the table now.
Right.
Everything's on the table. So back to whether Dogman is of the lineage of Sasquatch or something totally different, whether it's a government experiment
Yeah.
or it's down the lineage of the werewolf path.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
come on, guys. You know, I got the movie business in my background. You guys remember the 60s and the 70s when all of a sudden they started coming out with the Mummy and
Yeah.
Frankenstein and the werewolf. Lane Chaney. What was the guy's name?
Lon Chaney, Bela Lugosi.
Lon Chaney. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. All that stuff comes out. So there was a revelation, and this goes back to the UFO encounters, anything paranormal, anything cryptid, where there's been a revelation, and we know that the CIA films the feeds the film industry with information, because you can't tell me that Steven Spielberg one day just had an idea for Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He just pulled that out of his back pocket. No, the detail in that movie,
Right.
give me a break. He's being fed, he's being told by somebody about these beings, you
I
know.
agree.
Yep. So that's where I'm at, guys. So with the Dogman, the amber color eyes,
Yes.
you know, we had a recent dog sighting. It's been a year now. I consider that recent. Well, there's been two. A few years ago, south of here, a young dog man guy was driving down the road, sees something feeding on a dead. You know, here in Michigan, everybody's hitting deer all the time. I live here in Sandusky. You'll drive 5-10 minutes without seeing somebody else, but you always got to watch out for those deer. So this guy's driving down the road. He sees something feeding on a deer carcass. He's like, he's kind of like, what's a, you know, we usually don't see black bear here in the thumb of Michigan. The thing stands up and it's not a very big one, but it's right next to him, just outside the car.
Yeah.
And it's what he described as a young dog man. Okay.
Wow.
So you got that sighting, then you couple it with, this is what I like. I love this story because then we bring in an element where when I'm going to phrase this correctly. When you have a Christian background, like I've got a Christian background, I'm a Christian, all of this. And then the way we're schooled up here in America with religion and all of this, these supernatural things you don't really hear about. You hear about the devil and Satan, but you don't hear about whatever all the other beings or creatures in this world. So this guy, one of the patrons of this church in Carroll, Michigan, 1 year ago, is cutting the lawn of the church. He's doing the lines. He's paying attention to his lines because if you are a homeowner or whatever, you want those lines to be straight in your lawn. And this cracked me up because I'm an idiot. I'm like, oh, come on, I got to redo that line. So this guy is driving the riding lawnmower up and down, making the lines, and he just happens to look up, and in the parking lot is a dog man standing right at him, glaring at him, grimacing, growling, whatever. Now, I love this connection because when you're a person of faith, you don't equate with these creatures or beings being real.
Right.
And so he said, I don't know, and I still got to follow up this guy, if he looked away or if the thing just disappeared. To me, it doesn't matter. He could have looked away for a second, and these creatures are so fast, they're out of sight. That's number one.
Right.
Number two, it could have cloaked or went interdimensional. Okay. That could have happened as well. But this is a guy who doesn't, like me and fairies. He doesn't believe in any of these things, and he sees one. And what's funny about it's right in downtown Cairo, Michigan. It's not off in some cornfield or some forest. It's right in the middle of town at a church when the guy's cutting the lawn. So these things can come and go as they choose. And then following up with Aaron Spencer, he's like, oh, yeah, well, there's a dog clan over in the reservation, and there's a Sasquatch clan, and they don't like each other. So then I have stories to kind of corroborate. I've got a young one seen years ago south of me. And so this one, if somebody just might have pulled that out of the hat, I would have been like, Dogman, really? You always try to, I don't want to be one of those person that believes just because you tell me that you saw a Bigfoot,
Yes.
I automatically believe you. I would rather have a little more evidence.
Fair
So
enough.
yeah, I've got other stories of Dogman in the area supporting this, let alone Michigan and the Beast of Bray Road up north of here. So
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
Now, so no, so I just want to backtrack. You were talking about orbs and stuff like that, and it's very interesting you said that because I've read both of Ronnie LeBlanc's books, Monsterland, and in the
Awesome.
second one, he talks about the Lancaster Forest, which is in the area where he lives. He says he constantly it's well known that these orbs will just float through the woods, and then people will have a Bigfoot sighting like within a time frame of seeing these orbs.
Right.
So I mean, it's to me, it sounds like they're. I mean, that's what makes me believe more and more about the interdimensional part of them and how they can get around so quickly is by transforming into these orb-like energy balls and then
Yeah.
coming and going as they please.
Yep. Yeah, I've heard of the story of one person actually seeing a Bigfoot turn into an orb. So yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah, whether all orbs are Bigfoot, I'm not saying that. I'm saying this
right,
is this
right.
is an incident. With my eyewitness Scott Opper, I mean, I'm sure we're going to talk again. I'm going to get more information from him because he's got Bigfoot and orbs around him in his location, out by Grand Rapids, Michigan. So that I'm going to love that one because then I'm going to get even more understanding. You know.
Right. Yeah, no, it's just, it's just when you hear accounts of quite a few people, not just from the same person, but,
Hmm.
how it just seems like certain things have always been connected. Like they'll see a UFO, but then somebody a short time later will have a Bigfoot reporting, and vice versa. And
Yeah.
then people with these energy balls just floating through the forest, and then somebody will say, "Well, yeah, I believe I've seen a Bigfoot or
Without a doubt.
something." So it's
Without a doubt.
it's all amazing how it's all coming together, like how we're piecing this puzzle together. So yeah, I mean it's good. It's like yeah, you interview multiple people, and how can multiple people from the same area be wrong about something or an incident? That's
Well, exactly. And I think here in Michigan, the Upper Peninsula has the most orb sightings and the most Bigfoot sightings or Bigfoot activity. So there you go. I mean, you're equating one with another. So
right. Yeah.
You
yeah,
do.
yeah. No, I agree. And then you wonder about certain areas like portals. I mean, out by Grand Rapids, Muskegon area. So I've got the Bigfoot, I've got the orbs, I've got eyewitness. What do you got?
That's the elusive Luna.
Yeah, she hangs out right here with me. She's very
Awesome.
comforting.
Awesome.
Always back. I have two cats, but back in the day when I would generally sit here and listen to Dogman Encounters radio, and she comes and hangs out. She loves the paranormal stories. I'm assuming that's what it is. Anyway, sorry, focus. So I want to ask you, I overheard on an interview you were talking about, you got a special phone call from law enforcement about something.
Oh yeah, is that the Upper Peninsula
I
incident?
believe.
Yeah. So we try not to nail down or here, put it this way. Many people believe that there are some Bigfoot that are good and some Bigfoot that are bad, so to speak.
Yes.
We'll keep it simple like that.
Yeah.
This was an incident that I first heard where I thought, okay, this must be a bad Sasquatch clan. Oh,
Right.
that's all. Well, then I find out later the guy was shooting at the Sasquatch clan.
Ah.
Yeah. So what happened is
Excuse me.
Upper Peninsula, just west of Sault Ste. Marie. Imagine a 2-track, a family riding 4-wheelers down this 2-track, a 5-member family. We have grandparents, a man and a woman. We have their son, man in his 40s. And then we have two children. I might be wrong about the details, but the story is right. Around the ages of maybe 15 and 12, 11, more, so younger. Well,
Okay.
evidently, as they're riding, they see a clan of Sasquatch watching them.
Ooh.
Okay. The 40-something man has a pistol on him. He takes a shot or two. Now, I don't know if he hit one or not, but that riled up the Sasquatch clan. So, next thing you know, the Sasquatch clan is getting irate. And they start closing in on this family. Now, this 2-track runs, in Michigan here, we have cabins all over the place. The big thing is going up north, for vacation, you're going up north to your cabin. So this is a cabin area where the 2-track leads from cabin to cabin. So they get to a cabin, and well, they're not far from a cabin. Oh, you know what it is first is they start heading back on the 2-track where they come from. And all of a sudden, where they just came from, there's a tree over the 2-track. So then they try to start heading the other way, and then there's another tree thrown down over the 2-track. So they're getting off their 4-wheelers now. They see a cabin off in the distance, and they get in this cabin. They put the two kids, the two younger ones, kind of hide them. The grandmother stays in the house, from my understanding, and the man with the pistol and the grandfather are out in front of the cabin. Okay. The grandmother's on the phone calling family members. We need your help. This is not a joke. We're surrounded by Sasquatch. They are irate and throwing things at us. Okay. The family members say, we'll call state police. Where you at? We're on our way. Okay. So the grandmother gets off the phone, calls the state police. Well, the state police get there first, and then the family members get there second. When the state police arrive, here's all that they know. They find the grandfather's head has been twisted around back and broken completely, and his body's laying there.
Oof.
The man who took the pot shots with the pistol, he is dismembered. Anything you can take off that torso, it came off.
Wow.
Okay. They find the grandmother in the house. Her breasts were taken off. I believe they were eaten, because I'll elaborate more on that. And she was dead. Okay. Interesting enough, they find the two younger ones, the teenagers, scared to death, but they're okay. So the police get there, throw a blanket over their head. You don't want to see the rest of your family member. We're getting you out to the squad car. State police, and while the state police show up, there is still, this Sasquatch clan is still irate. So the state police are going, we've got Bigfoot. So they call supposedly their special number, and it's the military. Okay. The family members now show up and want to see everything, but the state police are holding them back. But they're like, okay, you can take the kids, but just get on out of here. So as the story goes, the military shows up and bags 6 of what they figured were 13 or 14 Sasquatch. Now, when they bag these things, they do find the missing body parts to the 3 adults, and the Sasquatch had been chewing on them, been eating them. Okay.
Wow.
Yep. And so they didn't get, of course, by the time they got the 6, the rest of the clan, hightailed it out of there. They didn't want to get shot, didn't want to get killed. But that is an instance where I first heard it without the guy shooting at the Sasquatch. So I thought, okay, well, this must be a bad clan. Well, then I later find out they were shot at.
Right.
From everything I'm hearing, do not shoot at these things, because unless you've got an elephant gun, you're not going to take one down. And then number 2, if you take one down, these things are rarely alone. They're usually in family units. The rest of them are coming at you. Now, this book, when I read this, the one thing I got out of this, or the most important thing I got out of this, is these creatures, these beings, are so massive. The one that Matthew Sexton saw with the young one, he likened it to the size of a rhino, of a
Wow.
rhinoceros. He had crawled out of his tent, looked up, and there was a young one, and an arm was around, covering almost all of the young one, and it believed to be the mother. And this thing was, he figured, anywhere between 8-10 feet tall. And these things are so wide and massive as it is. Their density and the weight of these things, and when we can talk about that on another creature, they're just so massive. So unless you, like I said, you got a cannon, you're not taking one down. And then if you do, you're in trouble because the rest of them are coming at you. So don't go after
Right.
these things. Don't think you're going to bag a trophy.
Right.
You're not. So anyway, so that is the story that I heard. Yes.
Why do you think the teenagers were spared?
Because they weren't responsible. They weren't aggressive. These creatures can read you, and basically they're going to accept you or they're not going to accept you. And back to
Right.
the point I was going to make real quick in this book, these things, they're so big, they're always hungry. You read this book, this Sasquatch in this book is constantly trying to feed itself, is constantly looking for a food source. And that's why this Jan Clement got along with this creature so much, is because he always had apples on hand. He always had a food source on hand. And this particular solitary Sasquatch might have been kicked. He wasn't sure if it was kicked out of its clan or maybe he had a deficiency, maybe mentally or anything like that. But the guy fed it, and this thing hung around. These things are always hungry. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah. Pardon me. Now, you're talking, this is a massacre you just spoke of, and there's another massacre that's known. And before I ask that question, I'm going to say, so it's a place called Land Between the Lakes. It's Kentucky and Tennessee. Dogman, allegedly, Dogman and Bigfoot have been witnessed together, where there have been claims of Dogman is almost as if acting like it's a dog to Bigfoot, and they're working together. Those are instances of that. But Land Between the Lakes also had a massacre, did it not?
Yes, it did. Yes, I don't have the full story on it, but I believe in a child was killed in that one and believed to be killed by the Dogman. From everything I'm hearing, my sources say that the Dogman is more irate, is more likely to come after you than a Sasquatch. But if you watch the Angie Elizabeth episode, which is called My Life with a Bigfoot Family, that particular Sasquatch family has a friend who's a dogman, and she claims that this dogman is more of a Spock type figure, logical thinking, more proper. So that to me tells me there are good and bad ones. There are different types. There are different levels. Maybe some are more animalistic. If they've had government trials on them or something, maybe they're not all there. Maybe, their emotions are more high strung. So yeah, that's a sad story. And I've got to learn more about that story. But am I correct, Michael, that a child was killed in
I think that
one?
sounds right. I think you are correct on that. And I'm not super articulate either. I'd have to go back and
and maybe two children. Maybe two children. I remember body parts in a tree and up in a tree or something.
They actually demolished that campground area, so they don't want anybody camping there ever again because of that very reason.
I want to see. I have to double check that location. I wonder how far it is from Hazard, Kentucky. And then, I mean, just the Appalachian Mountains. A buddy of mine from Alabama called me, where his town, every year they see a 15-foot albino Sasquatch come out of the caverns down there.
Amazing.
In November.
Wow.
And so that's another aspect of these creatures is they struggle with the heat. My Black River Bigfoot's over here, and I've got 3 or 4 tribes along the Cass River over here. That's why we have so many in the thumb. They are constantly trying to get in that water, and whether it be for dehydration or just even cooling off. I over here in Port Sanilac, you guys jump over Lake Huron. I got a gal in Port Sanilac who reported to me almost every night, especially in the summertime. She's got a big alpha male, silver gray, pepper gray one that walks through her yards and heads down to the lake, and she can hear them
Wow.
splashing around down there. So they
Right.
need to cool off, and they need water.
And one thing you mentioned is while I overheard. Sorry, Dale. You're next. I'm done asking a million questions. Sorry, I have such a list here. I'm so sorry. I'm like holding everybody hostage.
This is Michael John's buffet right now. It's these kind of shows. I love them because I get to sit back and learn as much as possible. Because Michael John, this is his guilty pleasure, and I love it because it's like watching a kid running through Toys R Us, being able to get whatever toy he wants.
So you mentioned reports are seeming they're starting to escalate again about hostile cougars and black bears. However, it's probably not as it seems.
You talking about here in Michigan, or even, I've heard about the ones here in Michigan.
I believe that's what you were referring to in the interview I listened to earlier today of you.
Yeah, the aggressiveness of everything is heightened. And the reason being, the reason being is I believe the main reason is there is a population explosion of Sasquatch going on right now. Now, we have folklore stories of Indian stories that these things, here you go. Here's, when we say crazy, we talked about this, Michael John. When we say crazy, we mean crazy in a good way.
Yes.
It's just mind blowing. But what we're understanding now is these creatures, these beings, I keep trying to correct myself, forest people, live anywhere between 50 and maybe, I was going to say 300 years, but now I heard another story, maybe 500 years of age. Okay?
Wow.
In Michigan, there's an old folklore Indian story that the Indian tribes, I'll try to paraphrase everything. The Indian tribes here in Michigan banded themselves together to basically war against the Sabe or Sasquatch because they were thick as leaves on trees. There were so many of them that they had to kind of go to war because they were having trouble with them. Okay. Well, here in Michigan, you start with COVID. It's like I always say, I lived here in Sandusky, Michigan 30 years ago, and I swear there was more people then. Now I can drive around, like I said, 5, 10, 15 minutes and not see another car. I'm just driving through country constantly to get home. I believe that there is a population explosion going on here in Michigan. That's why I'm seeing so many in the Thumb area alone around the water sources here in the Thumb, which is mainly farmland. But now if you've got a river and a little patch of forest, you might have a Sasquatch family in there. I believe because they live so long, that they are spreading that population number from that old Indian folklore story. That's happening again. Maybe they started to repopulate stronger in the Upper Peninsula, but now they're getting down in the Lower Peninsula. And then you used to only hear stories in the upper part of the Lower Peninsula. But now all hands off. You talk about the Monroe Monster. I think that was in the 70s. But then there's stories of what was that, the War of 1812 down in Monroe when when they were fighting each other. The men wrote in their journals, this is in the Scott Brush episode, about where while the human men are fighting against the Indians and the French, I believe it was, don't correct me, but they're having some of their personal belongings and their food supply stolen by Sasquatch who are climbing up over the fort walls and stealing their rations and getting out of Dodge. And now I've got sightings. I've got sightings in Monroe, Dundee, and then you go to Waterloo State Park, which is in the, around the Ann Arbor area, and then the Scott Opera. It's all along that I-94 corridor now. But yeah, that's why. So back to that, the cougar, you'll see the occasional cougar, you'll see the occasional bear, but these creatures are more irate now because their food supply is in competition. Matthew Sexton of the Black River Bigfoots, he's seen these Sasquatch just zooming back left and right, stacking deer carcasses 3 high because they're stacking it up. They'll raid one area and then they'll move to another area. They won't exhaust the deer population completely in one area, but they'll move to it. They rotate areas. So yeah, I believe the food supply, even though we got a ton of deer here still, yeah, but the occasional cougar or black bear, at least in the lower part of Michigan, they are competing for food with the Sasquatch. So I would more worry about an attack from, yeah, a black bear or a cougar, if you were off by yourself than even a Sasquatch clan.
Wow. I mean, that's mind-boggling.
Good stuff.
So I'm gonna get my question in because now you've got me curious from the beginning of the show. My guilty pleasure, of course, cryptid is the Mothman. So you said you got something on a Mothman, so I've got to hear this because I've been trying to get my way down to West Virginia and Mount Pleasant for many, many years to just dive all into that. So can you please talk about Mothman for a second?
You got it. So now the synchronicity is a revealing, so to speak, that once you see one of these beings, you start seeing the other beings. Okay. So we did kind of a little tour. My girlfriend and I went to go down visit her sister in North Carolina. Had some time on the beach, but me, I wanted to hit the West Virginia Bigfoot Museum. We hit that, but on the way down, God bless her. My girlfriend's so smart. She's like, and her daughter had told her something I had forgotten about. The old Richard Gere movie, The Mothman Prophecies.
Yeah.
Hey, Point Pleasant, West Virginia, they had this Mothman thing. So if you go on my Facebook page, you can and go back. I think it's August. We're at the Mothman Museum. I got my T-shirt. Oh, I've got the this big poster over here. Let me try to move this, guys. My big Mothman poster right there.
Oh, that
if
is
you can
cool.
see that from West Virginia. Yeah, I love putting all this stuff in my podcast studio. So we go down there, right? We go down there and we're just checking out the museum and everything, okay? And we're having a good time. And we head to her sister's. Well, that night, okay, my kid's home alone, kind of watching the house, but I have cameras all around my house. Now, I do believe I've been visited by this scout Bigfoot. We believe anywhere between 2 and 4 times that he's been at our house. We don't know if multiple Sasquatch have been here because there's something that once you see a Sasquatch, they might tag you and then follow you home. I don't know if you guys heard that or not. All right, but
No.
that's another story. But when I first took over this house, the house had been vacant for a couple of years, and some vandalism. People were breaking in. I don't know if they're doing drugs, whatever. So I put up cameras all around. Okay, you can't walk near my house with being on security camera. So we go to the Mothman Museum, and that night I catch something on my camera that looks like it could be a Mothman.
Wow.
It is a shadow creature and it's huge. Okay, I'd heard Mothman is 8-9 feet tall. So now we don't know if it's the scout Sasquatch on all fours doing the spider crawl, or because it coincided with the Mothman Museum. And then once you're tagged by these interdimensional beings, then you're known and they start coming and checking you out, like the fairy checked me out.
Right.
You don't know exactly what's going on. It's like, hey, we got somebody who's aware of us, and now we need to be aware of him. So let's go watch him like he's watching us. So yeah, so on my security cameras, and when we get together again, and it sounds crazy, but that's how busy I've been. I'm supposed to come out with an episode with this shadow creature so you can see it, and that'll be coming out on our YouTube channel. I have tried to debunk it all I possibly can. You will see in this episode, you will see pictures of deer, possum, cats, whatever else you can correlate. Well, yeah, that's clearly, well, this thing moves totally different. They say
Right.
Sasquatch and these they move, they don't move like we do.
Right.
And and the best way I can describe it is it's like this. What's my hand? But it's very quick, and it's a black shadow creature. So yes, so that's coming up, and I'll let you see that. So we don't know, because it coincided with the Mothman, if it's a Mothman or if it's a Sasquatch. But yeah, it freaked me out. I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck was that? You know, your first, and I call my son, and I shouldn't have, because my older son, he's like, Dad, you're nuts. You're getting older. Bigfoot isn't real. You're just looking for something to do as you get close to retirement. They're not real. All you older guys sit around the campfire and you're talking about Bigfoot. That's what this is. Well, my younger son, he's just more intuitive. He listens first before he decides. And so I'm like, hey, dude, I made the mistake of calling him. Hey, dude, something's on the camera. And so he's like, where? Where? What's that house? So he's wanting to check it out. And what was really neat about him is he had a little bit of confirmation. I took him to the area of the Black River Bigfoots. And when I pull up to the Black River Bigfoots and I gift them, I always do a certain honk pattern on my car horn or my truck
Right.
horn. We got up, and I wanted to show him because I fell off the cliff, like I told you before. And I wanted to, like, all right, if I get hurt again, somebody's got to know where I'm at. So I'm like, all right, kid, I'm going to take you and I'm going to show you where this is. We get out of the truck. I just done the horn honking pattern. My kid looks at me like, what are you doing, Dad? I'm like, you'll see. We get out of the truck, and then he hears wood knocks off in the distance, the same pattern as my horn honking. And he looks
Wow.
at me and he goes, you gotta be kidding. And I'm like, yeah, we just go down this path. This is where I find all the footprints. This is where I find the Y sticks, all the gifting. This is where I first heard a Sasquatch talk. And let me tell you, when you hear Sasquatch talk, I love saying it this way. I didn't sit there and go, oh gee, I wonder if that was a Sasquatch. There was no question that was a Sasquatch. I've never heard such a low, powerful tone in all my life where it shook me to the bone. I wanted to curl up in a fetal position when I heard this thing talk. And it was only a two-syllable word. Like, I always try to imitate it, but it's like, wadu. And what I believe that wadu means in Cherokee is thank you in the Cherokee language. Because
Cool.
when we came out the next, and people ask me, you know, their podcast show, well, why don't you get out of your tent and go check it out? Well, I had heard about the Black River Bigfoots, and I heard about how rambunctious they can be if they don't accept you. I'd even just talked to a hunter a couple of weeks ago that he got chased out of there by the Black River Bigfoot. And he's like, I'm never going back. I don't ever want to experience that again. If these creatures don't like you, you're going to find out. So
Right.
I was hesitant to come out of my tent. They stroked my tent, spoke. When we came out the next morning, they had taken the apple, and I believe now that he was the alpha male Sasquatch was saying thank you for the apple, said wadu, and took the apple, and that was the only apple missing, and it was right next to where I heard the voice, because we had a line of apples, kind of like in a half
Yeah.
moon type setup.
Right. That's another thing I'm always fascinated by is the gifting and what they can give back in return. Me and Michael have talked to several Bigfoot people, and the gifts of marbles and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Um, so, and that's what makes me think more of the Native American culture, because the Native American cultures were big on gifting. They always, like, whatever you gave them, they gift stuff back, and this is what makes me really think like Bigfoot are more of that side of things, because when you do gift them, they always give you something back in return. Um,
Yes.
and you know, and like you said, like each gift can mean a different thing. Like the Y sticks, they mean something, you know, because Y sticks originally were used by settlers to find water.
Interesting. Yes, that's right. That's right. And two, with the marbles, I just talked with George Lunsford out of he's the NCI North Carolina. He's also an author, and he does all the cryptid beings, and really reveals a lot. He advised in the idea of the marbles is also gifting balls, because we tend to think of Sasquatch as just as these big males. Oh no, they're whole family units. So the marbles, Jerry Lentz, not too far from me, he gifts marbles in a basket, and the Bigfoot will have to get the marble out of it. And I believe that could be a child Bigfoot. And the way I've seen what's called a crib for Sasquatch, where they lay down trees almost like an octagon format, and then they have like almost a teepee structure, and they'll put their young ones in there, and they'll even close those off sometime if they're going hunting. But yeah, so George Lunsford had told me, gift red balls as well for the young ones, and marbles as well. So yeah,
Okay.
and then you got to be careful about giving too much food too, because you don't want them becoming dependent on you for food as well.
You mentioned marbles, and I'm sure I told you, I shared the story with you, Bryan, when we first met out in Houghton Lake. So we have a friend of ours named Mike Patterson, who I think you're familiar with as well. He's about 6 hours from here in a place called Houghton. No, Houghton Lake.
Mhm.
No, sorry, Kawartha Lakes, Ontario.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So for several years, he's had communication with a family of Bigfoots, the main one being Neff, as he calls him.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He's got audio of him. He's been gifted all kinds of like stick figures wrapped up in tree root, etc. For example, almost on command, like he'll get like one footprint in the snow, no rhyme or reason where it came from, but he'll get like that one footprint. The weirdest things, right? Or a handprint on his car, complete with the oil from the hand still there. You can see it beating. It's amazing,
Yep.
But he was telling us about being gifted marbles. And the first year we were at Houghton Lake, we met Ronnie LeBlanc from Expedition Bigfoot, etc. author. And Ronnie, I asked him, hey, you ever been gifted marbles? He goes, yeah. He goes, I actually have a chapter in my book about it. I met a guy by the name of Mike Patterson, and I was like, what? Oh my God. Holy shit. Here we go. So he was explaining how Mike had told him how to kind of get your mindset to it and ask for it, and how he started experiencing finding marbles around his home. So I thought that was pretty amazing. And I always wanted that. And I always put stuff out there. I give you permission, beings I'm dealing with, like when I do like conjuring and stuff, or family, past loved ones, ancestors, etc., etc. If I'm listening to a show, like even your Bigfoot experience, I would say any Bigfoot out there right now or Sasquatch that know Bryan, you're welcome to come here. I give you permission to let me know you're around. There, I've done it. So, anyways, the funniest thing, I had put out there I wanted marbles. Hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. I was in that you described earlier about being in the twilight phase of almost asleep but not quite we're almost asleep. And I remember I was laying, and it's not uncommon to hear a disembodied voice in here for the stuff I've done. It's not an everyday thing, but it happens, right?
Sure.
So I remember I was laying in bed, and I heard this out, because they're not allowed in my bedroom. That's off limits. They know that here. But I heard a voice outside my door, and disembodied voices always sound like they're up the hall anyway. They're never 99.9% of the time in your ear, So I was like, what the hell was that? So in my head, I'm spelling out what I heard, and I'm looking it up because I don't know what the heck it is. And it came up as a Turkish word meaning outlander or something. I was like, well, that's not, And then the next day, it's funny, synchronicities, Facebook newsfeed, there's a girl talking about hearing a disembodied voice. And there's Mike Patterson in the comments answering her. And I'm like, Mike. So I'm sending him a message. I'm like, Mike, the craziest thing, this and that, I heard this disembodied voice, and here's the word. And he goes, do you remember? Because I did it when I had him on our show the one time. He's like, do you remember when you put it out there, you wanted communication? I go, yeah. So the word is Gunaiden. 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 Yes. He says, in my opinion, that is an adolescent Bigfoot introducing itself to you.
Wow.
And then one of the girls from Sasquatch, I forget her native heritage, she goes, yeah, that's For just put it for the sake of saying it, that's a Cherokee word,
Wow.
and I was like, okay. And that was just the same event I met you at, Brian, where they
Awesome.
were. She said that. So anyways, moving forward a bit, which I thought that was incredible. I was like, oh my God, that was more than I could have ever asked for, So my wife left me and all that, and I got back to the gym about a little over a year ago. And then I always like wearing fanny packs to hold all my stuff when I'm at the gym around my waist, so I don't got to worry about it in a locker.
Right.
I have a fanny pack tucked away in my closet, so I had to literally move stuff and get through the abyss of junk in the closet, and there it was hanging. So I grab it, and I open up the big part of it, and I'm just looking to see what's in there, clean it out, all that. So then I go into the front where it's like the little change purse, if you will, and is there not a blue marble in there?
Oh my gosh. Fantastic.
Yeah. So, and I do have photos of that, and I sent it to Ronnie and to Mike that day, and they're both like, oh my God, that's so amazing. I mean, maybe let's, like you say, maybe my ex put a marble in there way back when, and that was it. Maybe that's all it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So I got to land the plane on the plausible too, right? Unfortunately. So.
Oh yeah. Now the voice you heard, that was inside your house?
In my apartment here, it was in the hallway.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I hear they can zap in and zap out. Yeah. So no, I don't doubt it one bit, and that's why my friend Jerry Lentz, I think Ronnie had told him about the marbles, and so Jerry does the marbles.
Okay.
And that I had correlated what I had learned about that area possibly being a young Sasquatch or an infant Sasquatch crib. And so that's so cool, man.
Yeah.
Everything works together.
My humble little experiences anyway. So
no, that's fantastic, because that's tangible, That is something that was brought to you and is tangible and was right there, That's fantastic.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, Brian, we always got to ask our guests. I mean, this has been a spectacular show. I mean, we could probably sit here for another 5 hours and keep going. But we really want to know what's up next with you. Where are you going? Where can people find you and reach out to you if they have some kind of experience that they just want to communicate with you?
Well, first of all, go ahead and email us at bigfootsofmichigan@gmail.com. We are lining up our season 3 eyewitnesses so we can start kind of scheduling those episodes for filming. And then, after talking to Deb, who does the UFO conference, we're probably going to do a Bigfoot conference at that same location at Houghton Lake. Yes. We had to have our town hall meeting we just did. It had to be kind of controlled because we had the film cameras there. We want to make it more accessible now to where you want to show up and tell your story. We got the mic rolling for 12 hours. You get up there, and whether it's 30 seconds or 15 minutes long, you can get up and share your story, on that platform. Because now the veil's coming down, guys. You're not crazy if you've seen a Bigfoot or any kind of interdimensional being,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and I mean that's the amazing part. Like we do love going to the UFO contact convention. Like I said, because it's an opportunity for people to go there who haven't experienced it but don't know who to talk to, and that is the perfect place for people to go there and just know they're not being judged.
Oh, exactly. Even if you just go and listen, and it's a great venue. Great, right there, Houghton Lakes.
Oh,
Beautiful.
love that
great
place.
venue. Yep.
The energy is unique there. Like any of those events that we've gone to, there's a special energy to each and every one of them. That one definitely has its own special energy, and I love going there. It's like going home in a different life, if dare I say. Love it.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. So I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us here on the Paranormal Voice. It's been such a great pleasure picking your brain, hearing your stories. I know we're going to touch base and get back together once again. So, yeah, we look forward to what more is coming out. So,
that would be great. Thank you, Dale and Michael. And yeah, next time we can talk about that praying mantis man that's been seen. We've got a picture of it. That's a whole different cryptid alien type creature standing 7 to 9 feet tall.
Wait, hold on. We got a half hour left.
And then
yeah, I don't like the praying mantis, the small ones that are probably not even an inch long or a foot long or an inch long. I don't know what I would do if I saw one 9 feet tall.
Well, when an ex-special forces guy and his buddy move out of the neighborhood because of this thing, that tells you something.
And those things are terrifying. Like Dale's saying, just the insect that we're all familiar with. I mean, if you ever seen videos where they put them in I don't know why people do that for the sake of videos and likes or whatever. It's unfortunate, but watching them destroy even those killer hornets from Japan or whatever they are, like they eat them, they destroy them like they're nothing. Could you imagine a 7-footer? No, I've gone. I have bad knees, but I would figure out how to run. I'm telling you.
Yep, for sure.
So, Bryan, Sawyer, I want to say thank you so much for taking time for us tonight. A definite lesson in cryptozoology. We'll say it like that and then some. So much more to talk about. We will definitely have you back if you're interested in doing so, of course, in the new year.
Definitely.
So much more to talk about. Thank you to all the creeps, the freaks, the weirdos that make up the TBV Nation, because we don't get to do what we do, and that's this right here, right now, without all of you. Hashtag blessed, thankful, grateful, humbled for these opportunities. Enjoy the moments. We'll see you all on the other side, but in the meantime and in between time, happy hauntings.
Happy hauntings.